but I'm really quite surprised to see how sometimes the least little slip of the tongue can result in these mass migrations during the deep snow. Anyway, I'm delighted to see you all here. We were a little bit concerned as to whether we'd get enough people here. I was saying things like, everybody has to read the book if they're going to come. And I was thinking, that means no one will come. Anyhow, I can tell that, I hope that this means that you did all read the book, and I hope it doesn't mean that you're all on the verge of bankruptcy, which is certainly a possible explanation for participation here. It's been a hard time for my church in the last couple of years. So I want to start with a little story. There's only really one good joke about if you're a church treasurer, and I'm that too. But this is a new version of it that someone just sent me. There was a well-worn $1 bill and a $20 bill, pretty beat up, and they arrived at the Federal Reserve Bank at about the same time to be retired, that is to say, cremated. As they moved along the conveyor belt to be burned, they struck up a conversation. The 20 reminisced about its travels all over the country. He said, I've had a pretty good life, he proclaimed. Why, I've been to Las Vegas, Atlantic City, finest restaurants in New York, performances on Broadway, and even a cruise to the Caribbean. Wow, said the one, you've really had an exciting life. So tell me, says the 20, where have you been throughout your lifetime? And the $1 bill replies, oh, I've had a pretty good life. I've been to the Methodist Church, the Baptist Church, Lutheran Church, several times to the Unitarian Church. And the 20 interrupts and says, what's a church? Now, I know that it's not just 20s and 1s that we worry about, but I think we are all aware that we need to be seriously concerned about building a climate of generosity in our churches and learning how to convince people that there is that stewardship is it's a spiritual calling. Okay, it's part of our mission as members of this movement to build the movement, and that means being good stewards. Now, when we started to organize this conference, I did another stupid thing. I said, I'll tell you what, just in case somebody hasn't read the book or hasn't read it like me for a while and needs to be refreshed, how about if I give a little short talk at the start that sort of horseback rides over the entire book? And of course, like they say in the Army, never volunteer. Everybody said, great idea, wonderful idea, you should do that. So I quickly realized that I had gotten myself into a tar pit, and I said, no, wait. I'm not going to be, there's too much in this book for me to just give my own impressions. I want you all to send me, in very succinct form, what you consider to be the 5 most important points raised in this book. And everybody thought that was a pretty fair deal. Some people found 5 to be a little bit too constraining, and sent me their favorite 15 points, things like that. We won't name any names, but you've already heard from her once this morning. Anyhow, and so what I am going to do is quite literally tell you what folks told me were the things that they most got out of this book. And you're going to hear, I'm going to try and not overly repeat, but I felt like there were so many things that people kept hearing or remarking about this book. I thought, oh, I'm just going to give you these bullet points, help you remember what was said in the book, we kind of talked about how do you organize this, and we sort of figured that I kind of said, well, based on what people have responded to me, it seems like there's like 3 areas where we sort of clump these comments. One is, why do people give to a church? The second is the importance of the minister, the pastor, in the process of stewardship. And the third is a sort of my favorite word, a salamagundi of practical ideas or suggestions for how you go about kind of building that sense of stewardship. So let's talk first about some of the reasons people give. Well, as you heard from the stories, one of the reasons people give is to change lives, and that's probably the single biggest point that he makes about why people give. If you're talking about what's the motivation, that people don't give to support budgets, they give to support a mission, and the essence of a good church mission is that it changes lives, changes people's lives. Now, I recognize for some of us, the sort of heavily Christian take that he has on that is a little bit, that's not our notion of what churches do, but our churches change lives, and those of us who've been involved with them know that, and it's maybe in different ways, but that's the point he makes, is that you really need to convince people that that the church's mission is to change lives, and it can be the lives of members, it can be the lives of the people in the community, it can be lives in the greater world. And he says, people want to be part of something that changes lives. People want to make the world a better place to live. They want to believe that they can truly make a difference for the better. Nonprofits and churches have only one thing to sell. Guess what? Changed lives. When they do it well, they are supported, but when they do not do it well, they go out of business. Please hear me when I say that you are not in business to balance budgets or manage money. You are in business to change lives, exactly. And as he kind of rephrases that by saying people, the rule in fundraising is that people give to people and not to programs. Only then do lives get changed. I know that I've learned this myself as a treasurer. One of the surest ways to get people to just simply turn off to the message of it's time to support the church is to start throwing line item budgets at them. Okay, that is not what people are giving for. They are giving to try and get involved and to help support something that is out there making a difference in the world. There was one other thing, let's see. Trying to think how best to express this. One of the things I want to make clear is that he makes the point, and I certainly agree with this based on my own experience of when things have gone well and when they haven't around my church, is that you've got to have a vision that sort of leads people to want to support the church, that's something they can share. You also need to have good leadership. I mean, there has to be somebody that can articulate the vision and make clear how we're going to get from here to there, okay? Now, we tend to think of that as just sort of, moving down, sort of planning our programs. We often lose sight of the fact that that kind of thing is absolutely essential to stewardship in the sense of encouraging people to provide financial support for this. And the third thing that he makes the point of is that people give when they feel that the organization is well operated. And that's one of the reasons I think that you've got to be real careful about saying, oh my God, we're in trouble financially, we need more money, because it certainly sounds like you've got a bunch of people that don't know what they're doing running the show. And if you're a treasurer like me, sometimes you find yourself going to bed at night, putting your head under the pillow and saying, oh my God, we don't know what's going to happen next. And that, but that's not a message that makes people want to support you. It's a message that makes people think, hey, these guys don't know what they're doing. So those are some of the things that make reasons people give. Now, one of the things that what's his name again? I'm sorry, I can't remember his last name. Christopher says, is that the pastor is absolutely essential to the process of giving. I think for most of our churches, this is a fairly radical notion. Certainly, the minister is always happy when the canvass goes well, but at least in my experience and my discussions with folks, most ministers sort of feel like, well, that's what the canvass committee does, you know. That's why we have a canvass committee, or that's why we have a stewardship committee, or that's why we have a finance team, whatever it may be. And Christopher makes the point that we are unlike almost any other significant nonprofit organization in that respect. Most nonprofit organizations consider the chief executive, and that, like it or not, that's what our ministers are, of the organization, to be first and foremost a fundraiser. Now, I recognize that ministry is a special calling, and it's not one where you can just simply make these simple rules, but it is certainly true that an effective minister can have a huge impact on the stewardship operation of the church. First of all, that is your first and foremost source of vision and mission. That person is in the pulpit and at meetings and at board meetings and greeting people at the door and just, you know, greeting people in his or her study, wherever it may be, all the time. And it is obviously the embodiment of the church's mission. And so that person is the key person in terms of communicating to the people who you are going to eventually be asking to support this enterprise what the enterprise is about. And that person needs to always be aware that one of the things that they are doing when they open their mouths about the church is encouraging people to support the church and giving them reasons to support the church.